When you communicate with native speakers, you always hear expressions, idioms, or some phrases that they use that you may not be able to understand. Or I'm sure sometimes you must have been curious to know what the meaning of some expressions used by native speakers is. In today's video, we're gonna focus your attention on some of these expressions, especially the conversational ones that you can use to add color to your speech, take your speech to the next level, and sound more fluent. In other words, sound more advanced, or be able to speak like native speakers. So let's start focusing on these phrases. The first one is, what are you up to? What are you up to? What are you up to? When we ask someone, hey, what are you up to? It's a casual way of asking someone about what they're doing. So when you ask someone, hey, what are you up to? What you're trying to find out, what you're trying to obtain information about is what they're doing, what they're busy doing. So what are you up to is a casual and informal way of asking someone about what they're doing. An example of this expression, hey, what are you up to this weekend? Which means, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Do you have any plans this weekend? Or what do you want to do this weekend? Or what are you going to do this weekend? The second English expression commonly used by native speakers that you should learn and use is, it's not my cup of tea. It's not my cup of tea. Once again, it's not my cup of tea. When you say it's not my cup of tea or something is not your cup of tea, what you mean is something is not what you really like. Something is not what you feel interested in. Something is not what you are into. Something is not what you're enthusiastic about. Or something is not what you enjoy doing or what you like to do. An example of this phrase, horror movies are not my cup of tea. I prefer comedies. Horror movies are not my cup of tea. I prefer comedies. Horror movies are not my cup of tea. I prefer comedies. Meaning that horror movies are not what I like to watch, enjoy watching, or are not what I'm into, or are not what I am interested in. I prefer comedies. I would like to watch comedies. I enjoy watching comedies. The next English expression that you gotta learn used by native speakers is, you nailed it. You nailed it. Once again, you nailed it. When do we hear this expression and what does it mean when we hear it? When a native speaker tells us, hey, you nailed it, bravo, you nailed it, that was wonderful, you nailed it. What they're trying to say is that we did something accurately. So when you tell your friend, hey, you nailed it, it's another way of telling your friend, hey, you did it perfectly well, you did it accurately, you did it precisely, you did it wonderfully and incredibly well. You did it perfectly well, you did it accurately. That's the meaning of you nailed it. An example of this phrase, that presentation was amazing, you nailed it. That presentation was amazing, you nailed it. Which means that presentation was wonderful, was amazing, you did it pretty well. You did it, perfectly well. You nailed it. You were really successful in doing it. You really succeeded in doing it. Now we're getting to the next English phrase used by native speakers on a frequent basis that you gotta learn and use to sound like them, which is better late than never. Better late than never. Better late than never. When we tell someone, hey, better late than never, what we're trying to say is that it is better to do something late than not do it at all. Or even if you end up doing something late, it is still much better than not doing it at all. Or if you delay doing something, that's alright, that's still acceptable and is much more preferable or is much better than not doing it at all. So better late than never is an idiomatic expression emphasizing the idea that any sort of delay in doing something is more acceptable or is much better than, not doing the action or the lack of the action or not doing the action at all. An example of this phrase, he finally apologized, better late than never. He finally apologized, better late than never. He finally apologized, better late than never. Which means he finally made an apology, said, I'm sorry, excuse me. He apologized, better late than never. Apologizing late is much better than not apologizing at all. Or any sort of delay in making an apology to someone is far better or much better than not making an apology to someone at all. Or a delay in making an apology is much more acceptable, much better than not doing it at all, or the lack of the action. Alright, now let's get to the next English phrase used by native speakers that we should learn to understand what a native is telling us and be able to communicate with them better accordingly, which is, that's more like it. That's more like it. That's more like it. But what does it mean when we say that's more like it? Well, when we say that's more like it, or when a native speaker tells us, hey, that's more like it, what they're trying to say is, that's how something should be. That's how something should happen. That's how something is supposed to happen. Something is supposed to be done, or something is supposed to go. So that's more like it is another way of saying, hey, that is how you're supposed to do it. That's how you should do it. An example of this phrase: you brought coffee and snacks. That's more like it. You brought coffee and snacks. That's more like it. You brought coffee and snacks. That's more like it. Which means you brought coffee and snacks. That's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to go. That's how it should be. That's how things should happen. That's exactly how things should be. That's exactly how things should look. Or that's exactly what things should look like. And now we're getting to the final phrase of today's video. In other words, the final expression of today's video used by native speakers that we as people whose second language is English need to learn and use in our conversations to take our conversations to the next level and make our conversations, more similar to those of native speakers, which is long story short, long story short, long story short. But what does long story short mean? Long story short can be used to refer to a quick summary of a long explanation. So long story short is a quick summary, is a short summary of a long explanation. So when we've explained something to someone, when we have provided someone with an explanation of something, when we want to summarize it, when we want to refer to a quick summary of it, what we simply say is, hey, long story short, like blah, 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 blah. Long story short, I don't want to try your patience. I don't want to make you feel bored. I don't want to stretch your patience to the limit. Long story short, which means if I want to summarize all the explanation that I just provided you with, then I should say something. You say the next thing, or you make the next, or you mention the next points. Let me give you an example of this phrase. Long story short, I missed the bus and had to walk home. Long story short, I missed the bus and had to walk home. Long story short, I missed the bus and had to walk home, which means, long story short, if I want to summarize all the things that I told you, all the points that I mentioned, all the explanation that I provided you with, I missed the bus and I had to walk all the way back home. And that's about all, guys. In today's video, once again, similar to all the previous videos on this YouTube channel, you learned some other practical English expressions and phrases that, you can add to your knowledge of English idioms and expressions with the purpose of speaking English better at a native speaker's level, or to take your English a step further. Let's review these phrases once again together. What are you up to? What are you up to? What are you up to? It's not my cup of tea. It's not my cup of tea. It's not my cup of tea. You nailed it. You nailed it. You nailed it. Better late than never. Better late than never. Better late than never. That's more like it. That's more like it. That's more like it. Long story short. Long story short. Long story short. Thank you for watching today's video. Make sure you like this video in support of your YouTube English teacher, and thank you for doing so, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'll be back soon with another video.